Hi, my name is Stan.
My name is Connie.
My name is Judy.
My name is Eileen, and I'm a caregiver to my mother.
And I care for my mother, Octavia.
And I'm a caregiver for my mother.
And I'm a caregiver to my husband, Art.
I'm a caregiver for my wife, Ann, who's 72 years old.
Basically, I've done everything for providing for both of them.
I take care of my mother on the weekends. I take her grocery shopping.
Not only household chores,
I provide her medical care, coordination, driving, errands.
choosing meals, making meals, cleaning up.
I find that I take care of anything that he can't take care of.
Sometimes I find balancing time a real challenge.
The difficult part for me is taking me into consideration.
Balancing her needs with the needs of my family, the needs of my marriage, and my own needs.
Staying calm, nice, and positive.
The real challenge is, of course, the distance and the moment you get that last phone call.
What I love most about taking care of her is knowing that we're providing a secure and comfortable home for her.
It's the time we spend together.
Is the adventure of finding out new things all the time to trying to help him stay out of pain.
My name is Ed. I'm a spouse and I'm a caregiver.
My name is Colette. I'm a daughter and a caregiver.
I'm a caregiver, and I'm a daughter.
And I'm a wife and a caregiver.
I'm a daughter and a caregiver.
I'm a son, a nephew, and a caregiver.
Hi, my name is Deborah Day, and I help manage United Way Caregivers Coalition. While caring for a loved one has its special rewards, it's a very challenging job. It can be stressful, overwhelming, and sometimes lonely. Each caregiving situation is unique, but all caregivers share the need for information and support. And that's where the Caregivers Coalition comes in. We help caregivers receive the support they need to take care of their loved ones and to take care of themselves. Caregivers who lead healthy, productive lives will be better caregivers. The most important thing to remember is that as a caregiver, you're not alone.
My name is Jaklyn DeVore. As Deb said, I am both honored and privileged to be the Division Director for the Essex County Division of Senior Services. It's my second career. I started out in banking. I spent 21 years in banking, actually. Started out as a teller, left as a vice president, worked through 4 mergers, and said, that's enough. I started working for the Division on Aging, and I counted by my daughter's birthdays because I started 6 weeks after she was born, and she just had her 17th birthday in February. So I've been here for 17 years, and it is absolutely where I am supposed to be. I really feel like we make a difference in the lives of many people. We are the primary agency for aging in the county. There are 21 agencies for aging throughout the state of New Jersey. We just happen to have one of the largest groups of seniors. We are the 3rd in the list now, with Ocean and Bergen being the top 2. However, we have more seniors in poverty in Essex County. Over the past few years, it's been a very, very busy time for me in that I have been a part of the National Organization for Area Agencies on Aging, which I think allows us, for the past 6 years actually, it allows us to be at the table when decisions are really being made around services for seniors. As many of you do know, and for those of you who don't, the Older Americans Act is what funds us, and it turns 50 years old this year. And so a lot has happened in those 50 years, but then a lot has not happened in those 50 years. There are more services now available than ever before. The Caregivers Act is only 11 years old, no, 12 years old. The National Caregivers Act is only 12 years old. And so that's probably the baby of all of the services that we provide. You do have a booklet, and I don't want you to go along in your booklet right now, but it is for your use. We just got finished with those books. We put a little bit more information in there than has been in the past. And I hope you find it friendly. And I hope you find the services when you're looking for services. I do know that you retain information that you need. You know, people see information every single day, and if you don't need it, it means nothing to you. But when you need it, can you go somewhere to find it? And can you find it readily? One of the services that we provide in the Division of Senior Services is information and assistance. That is one of the only things that we do in-house. We have call takers that will take your information and assist you in getting the services that you need, whether it be just to give you a phone number or to actually link you to the services. That would be the number that you call, and you will find that in the book. So let's talk a little bit about the services that we do provide. Some of our in-home services are Home Friends, which is really like a chore service. And usually people get that because there's no hands-on care. It's just chores, but they're not maids. It is not for that. It is for light cleanup, it's for laundry, it's for errands, I said laundry, shopping, and even companionship. You can take them, you can go with them when they have to go somewhere or something like that. That's called Home Friends. And then we have certified home health aides, and that's hands-on. That's when you would help a person with their activities for daily living. The person they could get bathed, hair comb, things like that, toilet. It is hands-on. Plus, you would be able to do things around the house as well. And it's strictly for that person. So if the person lives with somebody else, you're not taking care of a whole family. You're specifically taking care of that person. How many of you know about respite care? Okay. I was about to get scared because respite care really is for the caregiver. Respite care is available. There are some income guidelines, and there is a cost share involved with respite. However, one of the things about respite care is that the person who does it in my office, that's another thing that we do in-house. And the person that does it in my office, I've never met anybody like her. She can just listen to people day in and day out with gut-wrenching stories. And she will just sit there and listen, and she will help. And her name is Loretta Melito. She's a shining star. She's wonderful. And she said to me recently, "Boss, I may have to retire next year." And I said, "Don't do it. Don't do it, Loretta. Let's make an exit strategy. Let's have a few more years and then we'll do it." But she's very, very compassionate. Like I said, the guidelines are in your book. You can look at them at your leisure. But respite really is for the caregiver to allow them some time so that we'll take care of the person that you're giving care to while there was one lady, when I first started out, I'll never forget, one of the first people that called after I had gotten into the office, she wanted to garden for 2 hours every Thursday. Her husband had Alzheimer's, and he got very, very combative if he didn't see her. And she just was afraid to leave him to go outside to garden. And she just needed that 2 hours every Thursday so that she could do that. And it was a pleasure, to do that. But then there's a young woman that I know, and her mom is working, and then she has to take care of her around the clock. And she has cerebral palsy. I think she's 27 years old now. And her mom sometimes just needs to sleep a weekend. So those are the kinds of things. We will do nursing home. If the caregiver is incapacitated in any way, such as if you have to go into the hospital yourself, if you have to have a procedure done, you need your loved one to be taken care of. That's where respite would come in. And it's a nice service. I really think that if you haven't looked into it yet, that you do that. Transportation is a really big service that we provide. If you see the big blue vans, they say special transportation. Now, we've gone through many, many things with transportation since the 17 years that I've been here. And that is not a direct service. We always have a provider for that. And we've had some good providers and we've had some bad providers. And it is very costly to do transportation. Most of the services that we do, we cannot charge for. We ask for donation, but there are no charges. Respite is different. There's a cost share involved. But transportation, there is no cost. And transportation around the 128 miles of Essex County is vast sometimes. So transportation is Monday through Friday, some Saturdays, and some Sundays for church services. We do group trips, and there's a whole page or two in that booklet about transportation, so you could look at that at your leisure and find out more about that. But again, transportation is big, especially to dialysis centers. Dialysis patients need transportation 3 days a week usually, and it's usually Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. So it takes a drain, you know, when you have to do that kind of transportation for one person 3 times a week. But we do it, and we will continue, and we're endeavoring to have more transportation. The provider that we have now on board is a big company. It's called TransDev, and this is the first time we've had a really big company. There are some upsides to that, and there are definitely some downs. When you have a big company, they're very experienced with transportation. They can gear up very quickly and really know what they're doing. The other part of that is they're usually a for-profit agency. So they're looking for every dime of profit that they can find in any program. Usually we have dealt with for years and years nonprofits. And nonprofits, you know, it doesn't mean that they don't make any money, but they don't get profit. Okay, so, and that's what the Older Americans Act tells us, that we should be working with nonprofit agencies as much as possible. But in the case of transportation, most of the funding comes from New Jersey Transit. New Jersey Transit says that we can charge a fare. Essex County says that's not going to happen. Joe D says no. He doesn't want to charge seniors and disabled people a fare. So we have to come up with something else. And so this year, Essex County put in quite a bit of money. This is the first time that they've ever done that. But it was so, the amount of money that we got granted was so small that we would not have been able to do the services. So we had to do it. One of the other big things is nutrition. And I'm really proud. We have an award-winning program called Cafe in the Park. So a national award was received a year ago, 2013. We won an achievement, an innovation and achievement award from the National Association because we now have 4 cafes in the park. You know, in the park you see those houses all the time. Well, they were used by people in the neighborhood. Sometimes they have a senior club in them. They were just used for random different things. We partnered with the Department of Parks and asked them if they would retrofit those buildings for us to have a congregate meal site. It's a beautiful atmosphere. The parks in Essex County are second to none. They're absolutely beautiful. And over the past 12 years, millions and millions of dollars have gone into beautifying the parks. So they're absolutely beautiful. And you know, we started out with one in, what was our first one? Branchbrook Park. Now, Branchbrook Park is the home of the cherry blossoms. If you have not seen the cherry blossoms, then it needs to be on your bucket list, and it needs to be there for 2015 Don't let another year pass without saying it is spectacular. It is really breathtaking. I'm being honest when I say that. The cherry blossoms in Branchford Park are so beautiful. It really will take your breath away. And that was one of the things we did too. We did nursing homes, and we just drove people through the park. The people who had not been outside for many, many moons, they didn't have family that was coming to visit them. And we just took them for excursions through the park when the cherry blossoms were in bloom. They never got out, they just drove through. But it was beautiful. And so if you've not done that, please do it. It is fabulous. And so we started with Branchford Park. We opened our first one, and it was wonderful. The people in the community really took to it. They really loved it. We have, a nutritious hot meal. We have socialization. We have a lending library at that site. We actually have a jukebox at that site because the people there like to dance. So we have a jukebox there, and they play bingo from time to time. But it is really driven by the people in the community and what they want. So since that time, we've opened one in Independence Park, which is down Neck in Newark. We have one in Watsessing Park and one in Weequahic Park. And hopefully, we have one that is sort of a pilot in Glenfield Park in Montclair. There's always politics around people in the community and what they want. People in that community, some people in that community only want it to be open 2 days. Other people want it to be open 5 days. But the people who want it for 2 days speak louder than the people who want it for 5. So for right now, it's 2 days, but we're looking forward to it being 5 days very soon. Congregate meal sites really play a big part in, like I said, socialization of seniors. Some people do not have anyone else to talk to when they go home. So it really is important, and it really is a good meal. A good hearty meal too, I should say. A lot of people want to come in with their plastic containers, and I quickly look away a lot of times, but sometimes I have to say, no, you just can't take this because I'm concerned. Where are you going when you leave here? Are you going to refrigerate as soon as you get home? Are you going to heat this up the way it's supposed to be, So it is really good. We also have the home delivered meals. And that's for the most frail, the most needy, the most vulnerable folks. And we are constantly reassessing that program. For years ago, people used to get on home delivered meals and stay on it for 20 years. That means that sometimes people went into the hospital, they had a fall, they were incapacitated for a few months, and they just never got off the home delivered meals. And the assessments weren't done. And so people who really, really needed to get on the program couldn't because people who didn't need it were staying on it. Again, with that program, there are no charge for that, but we do ask for a donation. Our donation for congregate meals is $3, and that's a full meal. Now, one of my desires is that we open a supper club. Why? Why, Jackie? Why do you want a supper club? Because I live in the North Ward of Newark, and in Bloomfield, there's a McDonald's that on Friday nights, my daughter and I used to go sit, have girl time. And I'd notice that there'd be seniors in there dating. They'd be on dates. Girls, the ladies are all dolled up. The men have their hair spit shined and all that. And they're drinking Cokes and eating a cheeseburger and maybe sharing fries. And that cost them $5. And I'm like, we could do better than this. There are seniors that can get around. They still love to dance. At 80, the person who drives me to work is 93 years old. He's 93 years old. And he's the smartest man I know. And I know that if he wasn't doing this, he would just shrivel up and do nothing. And so I think that, as I said, the quality of life has to be there. Why would you want to live to be a 93-year-old person and have no quality in your life? So to me, dancing means quality. Music means quality. So in this year, we're going to find some dollars, and every month we're going to have a supper club with, a DJ, with a whole soup to nuts, everything, and go out dancing. People can get dressed up and go out dancing. And we'll do it through the nutrition centers. So people will sign up, and we'll do transportation, and we'll go out dancing. And people can date if they want to. I had a couple in the Ironbound section. They met at 86 and 83 years old. And the next year, at 87 and 84, they got married. And that's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. I think that's what's important. And it doesn't always happen like that, but it can. So that's nutrition. I think it's I think that's one of those things that people can really look to. When I first came here, we had a lot of providers providing the meals. We now have one caterer, and every meal is the same throughout the county. But we had horror stories. And I had a monitor. We have to monitor our programs. We go to them, we see what people are doing, we look at the numbers, all of those things. When I had a monitor who monitored a meal program, and she came back with a bag and sat it on my desk, and it was all rotten food. I was like, I would have believed you. You did not have to bring the proof. I would have believed that it was rotten. And we shut them down, and we systematically worked. And again, when we say politics is in everything, remember that those people were politically entrenched some years ago. And so they were allowed to just keep their programs running, and it wasn't the best interest of everybody. That no longer happens. So I'm proud of that, and I think that that's a step that we made in the right direction. And I think that those are our core services. We have a few others, ramps. We have that in a limited way. And then also what you need to know, there are some areas that we don't do home repairs. There's home repairs and there is ramps. There are some areas that we don't do it, and that is Newark, East Orange, and Irvington. And it is because those municipalities get their money from the state directly. The state gives us the money for everybody else, but those municipalities get their money directly. So we have nothing to do with home repairs or ramps or anything like that. I am also going to partner this year with the Department of Housing in the county because they do boilers. We used to do boiler repairs and we used to try to give boilers, but it got to be so expensive. When we got into these really old houses and, it got really, really expensive, and so we were not able to do much with the money. So we stopped doing the boiler repairs, but the Department of Housing does do boilers. I think there's something about a lien attached or something like that, but it's enough for me to get into partnership with them and find out how we can make it work. I would prefer, if you want to put a lien for a boiler, I think you have to keep it for 10 years or something like that. You can't move for 10 years. And once you've been there for 10 years, then the lien is forgiven. And the ramps, we've had people that build the ramps. We've even had partnerships with people who put up temporary ramps. A lot of people don't want a big ramp built onto their homes. And sometimes it's just the pitch of it. I mean, it's really a lot of different factors that go into putting a ramp on a home. It's not simply just putting a slanted board. It's a lot that goes into it. We have volunteers that help work with that, as well as paid professionals that work with it. We also had some Sandy relief dollars. Now, what you read in the paper with Sandy relief, it has been a mishmash of things that have happened. For our program, you have to be 60 or more. You can't be just disabled and an adult. And you have to have had sustained damages from Sandy and have not repaired. Exactly, exactly. Almost everybody has had to do something to repair since Sandy. So we are finding some people, though, who have not had repairs done. So if you know anybody, please spread the word. Ask them to call the division. We do have some dollars available. I think that's going to be rounding because we have to spend the money by September. We have to spend the rest of the money. We spent quite a bit of it, but we have to spend the rest of it by September of this year. Our funding usually goes from January to December. We're not on, that middle of the year thing, but the state is on June to July to June, and the federal government is October to September. Okay, so I think I've gotten to the end of our services, and if there are any questions, statements, anything, I'm willing to accept that now. Okay. What are the requirements for the respite program? The requirements are that you're caring for somebody 60 and above. There are some financial requirements, which are spelled out in the book. So I don't want to go through that right now, but there are financial requirements, and there is a cost share involved based on your income. If you have a home health aide, could you have a home friend? Could you have both? My answer to that is that you wouldn't need both. If you had a home friend, it is because you don't need hands-on care, so that you would only need that one person. If you have a home health aide, in addition to her doing hands-on, she could also make a light meal, do laundry, do things around the house. So you wouldn't ever need both. Now let me qualify that by saying the hours available have shrunk tremendously over the years. I think I remember, don't quote me, but I think I remember a time when you could get 8 hours. At least in New York, I know that there were people that were getting 8 hours every day. And right now, if we can get 2 hours a day, we're really doing really well. 2. Does the county have any services to help seniors who are hoarding? Yeah, we come across this every now and then. I would say adult protective services, but the thing about adult protective services is that it usually tries to stabilize a person who's in crisis. If you're hoarding, we've seen people, we've gone into some people's homes and they've had things from floor to ceiling with a very narrow way to get to the door and a very narrow way to get to the bathroom, really narrow. And I would say that's crisis. However, if adult protective services goes to that person's home, the person is cognizant, the person knows who they are and wants to live like that, there's nothing that they can do. It is about choice. We had a gentleman, and this was not too long ago, during a really bad snowstorm, but this gentleman had not been seen for about 2 weeks, lived in Glen Ridge, had not been seen for about 2 weeks prior to the snowstorm. And then after this really big snowstorm, people got concerned. His neighbors got concerned. They knocked on the door. There was no answer. They tried calling him. He didn't answer. They called the police. The police knocked the door down. And he sued the township because he did not want to answer his door. He did not want to answer his phone. And that's his right, to not answer the door or the phone. And so that's the only thing I could tell you. If they go to a person and they find that the person who is hoarding really wants to stop, then they can help them. But other than that, no. What would one's next step be? How do you navigate the system? I'd start out by calling information and assistance and saying, I don't know what I don't know. Okay, this is my situation. How can you help me? And then you go on the journey from that point. Because there are many services they can talk to you about, some of them free, some of them fee for service, but things that are available. So that's where I would start, information and assistance. And just call and say, I don't know. I don't know what I want. Help me. I seem to think that many of the services provided by the Division of Senior Services are income-based. Is that true? No, it's not true. But what is true is that we have to target. The Older Americans Act tells us that we have to target our services to those people who are the most needy, the most frail, and the most vulnerable. And so I can say to you it's not an income base, however, we're targeting those people who have the least dollars. So it almost does come out to be income based. The problem with that is that there are not enough services. You don't have to be in poverty to have a need, and the middle class is suffering. This is how I can use your help. I need you to be vocal about that with politicians, everyone that you see. There are politicians that live in your neighborhood. You grew up with them. They're now senators, they're now congresspeople, and even if you don't know them, call their office. There are not enough seniors. The middle class is dying. This is what I did when I was in Washington. When I was on a national group, this is what I did. Okay, I went to the offices of the people who represent us in New Jersey, and I said, the middle class is dying. We can only target our services, and of course there are not enough, and the dollars are shrinking every year. You have to do something, and so that's what you need to do. Constantly be a thorn in the sides of anybody who makes a decision. Okay, and there's definitely strength in numbers. So just get to know somebody in their office. That's what I do. I don't care about the congressperson or the senator. I want to know their aides. Okay, because those are the people who really make the decisions in the office, tell you the truth. One time when I was going down to Washington for a policy meeting, I took the train. I always take the train when I go down. I like trains. Anyway, I happened to see about 5 congressmen standing there waiting for the train. Oh joy, because where are you gonna go? Where are you gonna go to get away from me? There's nowhere. And so I did not even have to make appointments to go to their office on the Hill because I had gotten them on the train before we even got to Washington. And I just gave them an earful. And I told them about, the person who lives in Glen Ridge and, owns their home, but the taxes go up every single year. And they're bleeding now, okay? Because at one time it was okay. They could deal with it, but they can't anymore. And so you're saying this person has a lot, okay, but they still have a need. And those are the stories that don't sometimes get told. I am proactive about what services I qualify for, and I did make a call to the Division of Senior Services, and I was helped. The woman who answered the phone was very compassionate, and I found out that I didn't qualify for some of the things that I was looking for. But when I hung on the phone, I felt as though I was helped. And that's important, and I'm glad. Thank you for saying that. I hear a lot of the other way, and I want to hear that too. I want to hear if you don't get what you need, but it certainly is nice to know that someone helped you. The National Caregivers Act gave us dollars for things like, I didn't even mention it, and I'm sorry, but it is in your book. Caregiver education, this is part of it. Part of the dollars that we spend for things like this is from the Caregivers Act. Also, we do caregiver support. We can have people come into your home. This is always especially important when you first become a caregiver. A lot of people don't even identify in the beginning as caregivers. They're just taking care of their loved one, and so just to start you on your way, to let you know what you can think about and different ways. The lady asked, where do you start? Where's the first place you go? And especially if you're new, INA person will tell you that you can have someone come to your home and talk to you. So those are some of the things that came out of the National Caregivers Act. Okay, let me try to paraphrase that. I am in a situation where I am caring for both my mother and my father. my father. There are health challenges from both, but my father is much more severe. I have made attempts to call several agencies in an attempt to get help for both of my parents. And I have been told continually that they're over the limit by very small amounts, $11, $19. Can I pay whatever the amount is that is over back into the program and get services, because the services that are needed far outweigh the minimal amounts that they're over the limit. And let me say this to you, I'm sorry that you're going through that. It sounds really more like the welfare programs usually have those dollars attached to them like that. JAC, which is the Jersey Assistance for Community Caregiving, has those kinds of, that's a Medicaid waiver program, okay? And there's nothing that we can do about the amounts. Medicaid is very strict. They give us those limits, and there's nothing that we can do about that. Food stamps.
Can't you spend down and then reapply, or?
We can talk offline. The question was, can't she spend down and reapply? That usually works when you're trying to get Medicaid, okay, just Medicaid, and you can spend down your dollars. And that's another thing that I didn't tell you, that you have to go back 5 years. You have to go back 5 years when you're spending down. Okay, but what I would like to tell you also is that we're located at 900 Bloomfield Avenue, which is the next driveway. Right after the fire, then that driveway, where the Salt Dome is. And on Tuesdays and Thursdays, we have the pleasure of having welfare. We usually have the bus. And if we don't have the bus, we have them in our office. We have people there that will assist you with Medicaid and with food stamps. All right, so you can make an appointment to come up, or you can just come up and see them. I also have someone on my staff who can help you until they're there. But on Tuesdays and Thursdays, we have people from the Department of Welfare, Division of Welfare. But let's talk offline. Okay, now let me look for some ways that we might be able to assist you. And again, I can't promise, but I certainly will try, and I'll make you feel better after you speak to me. How long in advance do you have to call to get respite care? And I answered, of course, that there's no waiting list for respite care, and that the person who does respite care in my office, Loretta Melito, will walk you through the process, and she will take time for you. And then there was a comment saying that Loretta Melito was very, very good. Excellent, as a matter of fact. And she'll love to hear this tomorrow. Can't wait to tell her. Are there any more questions? Well, it's been my pleasure. It's been my pleasure to be here. Thank you so much.